Welcome to this presentation session of the Single Information Form, commonly known as the SIF. The specific objective of this module is to introduce you to the SIF set up by GMED to enable you to define and characterize your certification project from the first stage of the certification process under the European Regulation on Medical Devices. The mastery of this form, as well as the knowledge of the expectations of the notified body, are essential prerequisites to allow you to carry out your certification project in the best conditions. The SIF is an Excel form for manufacturers. It is available upon request from the certification project managers or the sales department. It allows the manufacturers to fill in all the information relative to their certification project, which are essential for the examination of their formal application for certification. The information to be provided will vary according to the specificities of each certification project. For example, the certification reference frame requested or the conformity assessment procedure chosen. Once completed, this SIF will be analyzed by the notified body in order to 1. Perform the regulatory audits corresponding to this stage of the certification process, 2. Define and characterize your manufacturer's certification project, 3. Issue one or more quotations for all conformity assessment activities to be performed in order to issue the certificate, and 4. Prepare the filing of the formal application for certification of the manufacturer. We therefore suggest to explore the SIF together.
The SIF has a main menu that allows the manufacturer to navigate within the form and access the different tabs, of which there are 10. We will review each tab to introduce them and highlight key concepts and information to help you understand GMED's expectations. The first tab is an operating procedure that provides valuable information and instructions for filling out the various tabs of the form. This tab is perhaps the most important tab of the SIF. It is essential to read all the information in this tab before starting to fill in the form. This will allow you to fill out the entire SIF more efficiently and save valuable time. Among the information present in the tab Operating Method, we find instructions on the tabs which must be filled in accordance with the characteristics of your certification project, and in particular, the reference frames covered by your certification project. There is also a general description of each tab in the SIF. This information allows you to have an overview of the SIF and contains valuable instructions to help you fill in each tab. And finally, we have established a glossary in which many terms used throughout the form are defined. The Company Identification tab must be filled in regardless of your certification project's characteristics. It aims to identify your company, identify the people to contact within your company, allow you to indicate the reference systems concerned by your certification project, allow you to specify whether you wish to benefit from additional services offered by GMED, allow you to communicate precise and detailed information related to the sites of your company concerned by your certification project and covered by your QMS, and finally, to allow you to transmit general information about your CE marking project under the regulation when your certification project includes the regulation EU 2017-745. It is important to specify two concepts present in this tab. In the section Description of your company's sites covered by your quality management system and concerned by your certification project, the sites to be mentioned must be limited to the sites of your company concerned by your certification project. The sites of your company not covered by your project of certification and/or which do not intervene in the associated reference frames must not be filled in. Here are an example of two sites that have been filled in. Site 1 and Site 2. In the section Information for CE Marking under Regulation EU 2017-745, first we ask you to enter a date to let us know when you want to submit your formal application for certification. As a reminder, the submission of the formal application is the second step of the certification process and is a prerequisite for the evaluation of the technical documentation and for the audit of your QMS. As part of the formal application for certification, the manufacturer must submit to the notified body several documents related to its QMS and the complete technical documentation for each device that should be assessed as part of the conformity assessment activities to be performed prior to issuing the certificate. In order to plan in the best conditions, the examination of the formal application for certification, as well as the conformity assessment activities that will follow as the evaluation of the technical documentation and audit, it is necessary and essential to transmit to GMED a correct and firm date. Please also note that only one date of submission of a formal application for certification must be filled in, as one CIF allows to process only one formal application for certification. On the date indicated, the manufacturer must therefore be able to send the notified body all the documents expected in connection with its QMS and all the devices described in the CIF, including the complete technical documentation. Therefore, the information entered in the CIF must be limited to the scope of your formal application for certification. Second, we ask you to define the scope of your formal application for certification through the terms generic denomination. The generic name must allow the identification of a set of devices. It will be included by GMED in the certification contract for CE marking under Regulation EU 2017-745 and mentioned on the corresponding EU certificates of conformity. A link will also have to be established between the defined generic name and the associated devices later in the CIF. The manufacturer is free to choose the term they feel is most appropriate to describe their device sets. GMED teams will ensure that the term proposed by the manufacturer is appropriate for the devices to which it corresponds. Of course, this term must not correspond to the commercial names of the device or devices, because the objective here is to define a term that allows everyone consulting the certificate to understand what type of device is covered by this certificate. Two examples of generic names are infusion set and single-use syringes. The Quality Management System Information tab allows you to provide all the information related to your quality management system. The first section of this tab, entitled Company and Quality Management System, about your company and your quality management system must be completed regardless of the standard covered by your certification project. All other sections of this tab are to be filled in only when your certification project includes ISO 13485, NFEN ISO 13485, ISO 9001, or ISO 9001 LNE system. For the sections dedicated to ISO, if the information is identical from one standard reference to another, it is not necessary to fill in the corresponding section again. You may only select Yes in the Same As fields. The MDSAP tab has been created to allow you to provide all the information required for the MDSAP program. In the MDSAP information section, a drop-down menu allows you to directly select the site previously entered in the Company Identification tab, thus ensuring the consistency of the information transmitted while avoiding the need to re-enter information already transmitted. The Master File tab is dedicated to the master file. It is optional tab that is only to be filled in for manufacturers who have adopted a master file approach for the validation of their processes. In order to correctly fill in this tab, it is important to understand what a master file is. A master file is a process validation file that covers several devices whose conformity is demonstrated through different technical documentation, or that covers several devices belonging to different categories and/or generic groups. The master file approach is a voluntary action taken by the manufacturer. It is only applicable to cleaning, packaging, and sterilization processes. For example, a validation file for a sterilization process that demonstrates the achievement of sterile status for 5 different categories of devices. The MDR Devices tab is perhaps the most critical tab for your proposed certification under the regulation. It has been created to allow you to transmit all information related to the devices covered by your formal application for certification under the regulation. Each piece of information requested must be filled in rigorously and accurately. The absence of data or data communicated partially can have significant consequences on the processing time of your application for certification, as well as on obtaining your certification. The information provided in this tab will be analyzed by the GMED teams during the pre-application phase and also during the review of the application. Before specifying certain expected information, it is important to understand how to fill in this tab. First, the manufacturer must indicate only those devices covered by its formal application for certification under the regulation. That is, devices for which compliance with the regulation will be established by the date indicated in the Company Identification tab, and therefore for which the technical documentation will be available by that date. Devices not covered by the formal application for certification under the regulation or devices that will be determined to be compliant with the regulation at a later date should not be listed. They will be the subject of a subsequent application. Second, the manufacturer is expected to fill in one line per device. According to MDCG 2019-13, one device corresponds to one basic UDI/DI. Therefore, each line must correspond to a different basic UDI/DI. If multiple devices have been grouped under the same basic UDI/DI, then they are variants of your device. In this case, the different variants of your device must be precisely detailed in the corresponding column W. Third, all information requested in each column must be provided for all rows that have been filled in. Each piece of information requested has a precise use and an impact on your certification project. Hence, the importance of providing all this data for each device. The data to be transmitted is either regulatory type information, in other words, information that the notified body must imperatively collect and analyze at the pre-application stage because it corresponds to a requirement of the regulation, or it is important information necessary for the selection of the device or devices that will be the subject of an evaluation of the technical documentation within the framework of the sampling plan, or information allowing the dimensioning of the evaluation of the technical documentation to be carried out and therefore the issuance of a quote. Therefore, a lack of information will have a direct and significant impact on the duration of your certification process. After this general presentation of the MDR Devices tab, we will take a closer look at the information requested for each device and comment on those that need to be specified. In column C, the manufacturer is asked to indicate the trade names of the device. The manufacturer must indicate here the name under which the device is marketed and known to health professionals and/or the general public. Then the manufacturer is asked to specify the common name of the device. This is the common name of the device, in other words, the non-commercial name. Here are two examples of trade name, common name, and generic name. First, we have PERF 2000. Gravity infusion set would be the non-trade name of the device, and the generic name related to the device would be infusion set. Second, we have SCR 3000. The non-trade name of the device would be infusion and irrigation syringe, and the generic name would be single-use syringe. To identify and fill in the common name of your device, you can use the terms used in the EMDN. In column E, the basic UDI/DI of the device must be filled in. The basic UDI/DI is the primary identifier for a device model. It is the primary key for entering information into the UDI database and appears on the relevant EU certificates and declarations of conformity. The basic UDI/DI also has a decisive function in the context of device sampling. In column F, the manufacturer must establish the link between the generic name entered in the Company Identification tab and the device. The cells in column F therefore provide access to a drop-down menu that allows you to select the generic name corresponding to your device from the various generic names that you will have entered in the Company Identification tab. It is important to establish this link so that GMID can validate the generic names proposed by the manufacturer and subsequently establish a certification contract for CE marking. In column K, a general description of your device is expected. This description must allow the GMED teams to understand the operating principles of your device and its mode of action. This description should also specify the types of materials involved in the composition of your device. It is essential that the manufacturer describes its device in an accurate, detailed, and unambiguous manner. In column O, the manufacturer must describe the possible accessories of his device. When your device has accessories, it is essential to fill in this column accurately because the presence of accessories has a direct impact on the evaluation of the technical documentation of the device concerned. This information must be carefully analyzed by the GMED teams. Column P, Q, and R are to be filled in only for Class 3 implantable devices and Class 2B devices intended to administer into the body and/or remove from the body a drug. The information provided in these columns allows GMED to identify if the CECP is required in order to take into account the timeframes associated with a consultation procedure and to provide you with the most accurate estimate of the end date of your certification process. In column W, the manufacturer should describe the different variants of the device. This information is critical to the sizing and proper conduct of the technical documentation evaluation activities. It is important to accurately describe all variants of your device. In columns AK through BP, the manufacturer should indicate the designation codes applicable to their device. Only one design and destination code, MDA or MDN, should be assigned to the device. For the so-called horizontal codes, MDS or MDT, all codes applicable to the device must be indicated. Among the MDT codes, the manufacturer must systematically assign to each device at least one MDT code among the MDT codes identified with a star. Please also note that the validation of the codes applicable to your device is the responsibility of the notified body. In the interest of transparency, GMED requests your assistance in identifying the designation codes applicable to your device. However, if a disagreement arises between the manufacturer and GMED regarding the assignment of a designation code, the final decision rests with GMED. As a reminder, the main purpose of designation codes is to qualify the resources of notified bodies involved in the certification process. In the CK and CL columns, the manufacturer must transmit the justification of the medical device status of the product and the justification of the classification rule. These justifications are essential for the notified body to carry out the regulatory verifications required by the regulation at this stage of the certification process. It is therefore essential that the justifications provided are detailed, substantiated, and sufficiently precise. The MDD Devices tab is intended to allow you to declare all your devices currently covered by a valid CE marking certificate issued by GMED under the directives. It is necessary to fill in this tab so that the monitoring activities related to these devices can be performed throughout the transition period to allow the maintenance of the directive certificates under their expiration date. Please also note that GMED will tailor the surveillance activities to be performed on devices covered by a CE mark certificate under the directives based on the status of your plans for certification under the regulation and your regulatory transition. The Subcontractors and Suppliers tab allows you to declare all information related to your subcontractors and suppliers who provide a critical product or service and who are involved in the design, development, manufacturing, testing, transportation, storage, maintenance, and monitoring of your device and devices covered by your certification project. As a reminder, these refer to the devices listed in the MDR Devices and MDD Devices tab. The concept of a critical product or service has been defined by GMED as any product or service that has a significant impact on the quality, performance, or safety of the device. Please note that this tab is only to be filled out for certification projects under the regulation and/or when your certification project includes the MDSAP program. The regulation requires notified bodies to identify the manufacturer's relevant suppliers and/or subcontractors and to consider whether a specific audit of any of these suppliers or subcontractors is necessary. Therefore, the completion of this tab is mandatory. This tab can be divided into two parts. A first part for the identification of your subcontractor or supplier as well as its activity in the devices concerned. Then a second part intended to indicate to GMED the various means of controlling your subcontractor or supplier that have been set up. In order to allow the manufacturer to complete this tab in accordance with GMED's expectations, it is necessary to specify several important pieces of information that are requested for each subcontractor or supplier. First, it is a detailed description of product or service supplied by supplier or subcontractor. In this column, the manufacturer is expected to provide detailed information on the type of service provided by the subcontractor or the product provided by the supplier. This information must allow GMED to clearly and unambiguously identify the service performed or the product supplied. If the information provided is not sufficiently precise, the manufacturer will be asked to redefine the product or service concerned. An example of this is the term raw material is not sufficiently precise to allow GMED to identify the type of product supplied by a raw material supplier. What is expected is a name or type of raw material supplied. Second, to indicate the means of control put in place, simply answer the questions asked using the drop-down menu provided for this purpose. The Complex and Critical Process tab is the last tab of the CIF in which the manufacturer must provide data. This tab allows the manufacturer to declare their critical manufacturing processes as well as their complex manufacturing processes. It must be filled in regardless of the standard concerned by your certification project. As a reminder, a critical manufacturing process corresponds to an internal or subcontracted manufacturing process that has the greatest impact on the performance and safety of your products. An example of this is cleaning, packaging, and sterilization process for a device in a sterile state. A complex manufacturing process corresponds to a manufacturing process that includes many manufacturing steps or several processes that are linked together. The manufacturer is expected to fill in one line for each different complex or critical manufacturing process. For each line, the manufacturer must specify whether the process listed is critical and/or complex and must indicate the trade name of the product concerned. The Attachment Signatures tab is the last tab in the CIF. It allows the manufacturer to indicate the references of all attachments to be sent to GMED with the CIF and to sign the form. The button Validate the Single Information Form for sending to GMED allows you to freeze the form. This button will generate a new file corresponding to an unmodifiable CIF containing all the information that the manufacturer has filled in. This is the form that must be returned to GMED. Following the exhaustive analysis of the information contained in your CIF, GMED will send you quotes for the various conformity assessment activities to be performed as part of your certification project.
This concludes this CIF presentation module. I hope it will help you to better understand the stakes and requirements of the essential step of submitting your project to GMED. I encourage you to contact our sales team or your certification project manager for more information or to apply for certification. Thank you for your attention and see you soon.